Three filmmakers walk into ancient Greece: Christopher Nolan, an independent AI filmmaker, and Elon Musk. No, that is not the beginning of a joke. That is apparently where filmmaking finds itself today. After nearly 3,000 years, everyone suddenly wants to make the Odyssey. At this rate, I'm expecting Netflix, Disney, and possibly my toaster to announce their own versions next week. Although, to be fair, the toaster's version would probably have the best lighting. But beneath the coincidence is a serious question about what filmmaking is becoming. Christopher Nolan is making his version. An independent AI filmmaker has created another. And Elon Musk says Grok Imagine will attempt an AI-generated feature-length version of its own. One ancient poem. Three completely different production systems. Why is everyone choosing the same story? Let us begin with Christopher Nolan. The Odyssey feels like the kind of story Nolan was born to tell. Epic scale, real locations, large format cameras, mythology, war, monsters, gods, and a hero who spends an extremely long time trying to get home. In other words, it is a Christopher Nolan movie that Homer happened to write first. Nolan has the cast, crew, resources, and experience to manage a production of this size. His challenge is not achieving scale. It is making an ancient journey feel newly human. He must take a story audiences have known for thousands of years and make it immediate, emotional, and personal. That is a legitimate artistic challenge, and personally, I cannot wait to see what he does with it. But Nolan's production creates a difficult question for the AI versions. Why voluntarily place your film beside a new production from one of the greatest directors of our time? Artificial intelligence is presented as an unlimited creative canvas. So why demonstrate that freedom by adapting the exact same story? The independent AI filmmaker is not operating with Nolan's resources. There is no enormous studio pipeline, giant production crew, or army of technicians building ships, armor, sets, and mythical creatures. And that may be exactly the point. The independent version is not really trying to out-Nolan Christopher Nolan. It cannot, and frankly, it should not try. That would be like entering a rowboat in a naval battle and becoming surprised when the aircraft carrier attracts more attention. The more meaningful experiment is what AI may allow one filmmaker or a very small creative team to accomplish. Could a creator without access to Hollywood's production system make a large-scale visual story? Could someone with limited money, equipment, and personnel attempt something that previously required hundreds of people and millions of dollars? The independent film does not need to look like Nolan's production to matter. It needs to demonstrate that ambitious visual storytelling may no longer belong exclusively to major studios. For most of film history, your imagination could easily exceed your budget. You could write the greatest battle scene ever created, but without money for the army, ships, locations, costumes, and visual effects, the scene remained on the page. AI is beginning to change that equation. It does not automatically provide taste, judgment, emotion, performance, or storytelling ability, but it may give independent filmmakers access to a visual scale they have never had before. It does not place the independent creator on the same playing field as Christopher Nolan, but it may finally allow that creator to enter the stadium. And that matters. The most important development may not be that AI can imitate the visual scale of Hollywood. It may be that people who were previously locked outside the filmmaking system can finally attempt the stories they have always imagined. And then, because this story was apparently not strange enough, Elon Musk enters the conversation. Musk says Grok Imagine will attempt to create a feature-length AI version of the Odyssey. Now the experiment becomes something different. The independent filmmaker is demonstrating what an individual creator may accomplish using AI tools. Musk appears to be making a much larger claim about the platform itself, that an artificial intelligence system may eventually generate enough material to create an entire feature film. But a movie is not simply 90 minutes of attractive images. A feature requires characters who remain recognizable, understandable geography, pacing, editing, sound, performance, emotional development, and story structure. Most importantly, it requires the audience to care about what happens next. Creating one convincing shot is a technical achievement. Creating a convincing movie is an odyssey of its own. That is the point where image generation must become the much harder discipline of filmmaking. So why is everyone choosing the Odyssey? First, it is in the public domain. No one needs to negotiate with Homer's agent, purchase the cinematic universe, or worry about royalty payments that stopped being a concern roughly 2,700 years ago. That is probably fortunate for Hollywood. After thousands of years of books, plays, films, and television programs inspired by his work, Homer might have become the first trillionaire author in history. The Odyssey is also a nearly perfect demonstration piece. It contains war, monsters, gods, storms, shipwrecks, romance, temptation, family, loss, and homecoming. It tests almost everything a filmmaker or AI system must accomplish. Can the technology maintain consistent characters? Can it create ships, battles, mythical creatures, and believable environments? Can it sustain that world for an entire feature? Hollywood can say, look at the scale we can build. The independent filmmaker can say, look at what a small team can now attempt. And the technology company can say, look at what our platform may soon be able to generate. But does the Odyssey really need another adaptation? Christopher Nolan has a reason. A great director does not simply reproduce the source material. The director interprets it. Nolan will bring his own perspective, cinematic language, and understanding of character, time, scale, and spectacle. But what does the AI version add? Technology alone is not a creative reason to tell a story. The test is no longer whether AI can produce the images. It is whether a filmmaker has something worth saying with them. The fact that a machine can generate an Odyssey does not automatically mean the world needs another Odyssey. A film needs a point of view, a reason to exist, and something to tell us that another version does not. Otherwise, AI risks becoming a very expensive way to say, look, we made one too. And that would be a missed opportunity. These tools may allow filmmakers to explore new ideas, new worlds, new characters, and stories Hollywood would never finance. That may be the greatest promise of AI filmmaking. Not that it allows us to remake everything we already know, but that it may allow us to create what we have never seen. These projects are not truly competing on equal terms. They are testing three different futures for filmmaking. Christopher Nolan represents the filmmaking system we know. Directors, actors, craftspeople, physical production, large crews, and theatrical spectacle. The independent filmmaker represents creative access, a future where ambitious visual storytelling may no longer require studio connections and enormous budgets. Elon Musk represents the possibility that an artificial intelligence platform may eventually become part of the movie studio itself. Different boats, different ambitions, but the same destination, an audience that still has to care. Great films require more than technology. They require judgment, taste, performance, emotion, storytelling, and a filmmaker who understands why this particular story needs to be told again. Because the most exciting promise of AI filmmaking is not that we can create another version of something that already exists. It is that someone, somewhere, may finally be able to create the story that could never exist before. One ancient story, three modern Odysseys. And somewhere, Homer is probably wondering how everyone remembered his story, but nobody remembered his royalties. If you enjoyed this Friday bonus feature, subscribe to The Politics of AI Filmmaking. Every week, we explore the politics, technology, and human side of AI filmmaking, not to tell you what to think, but to give you something worth thinking about. I'm Mark Kimball. Thanks for watching.